welcome to lecture 27, error handling exception. So, in the last lecture we had seen two examples with respect to C++, that too we had seen the try, throw and catch block, right, and then we have solved, and in fact we have seen how to handle the runtime error, right. So, in this lecture we will talk about the case study, the first case study, right. So, assume that you are developing a basic calculator in C++, so that will be performing arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, right. So, when you do the division you have to be very careful because there will be a divide by 0 error, right. So, this is undefined behavior, right. So, this particular problem we had seen in the example, right. So, since a by b when b is equal to 0, we call this as a undefined behavior. So, how to tackle this undefined behavior we are going to see. In fact, if you give, let us say z is equal to a by b, if you give b is equal to 0, so there will be a runtime error. So, how do you handle this? And also user may input the invalid data. So, your program has to handle everything, right. So, this we will study with the help of C++. So, let us include IOStream and std except, right. So, here you have the function divide. So, the function divide has a and b, the arguments. If b is equal to 0, you are throwing runtime error, right. So, you are throwing runtime error. So, this is available in standard exception, right, when you are including the header file called standard exceptions. So, you have this runtime error inbuilt function and this will throw division by 0 error, right. So, this will throw the division by 0 error. If b is not 0, then it has to return a by b. So, the idea is to have the arithmetic calculator. So, now you have two variables x and y whose data type is integer and you have an operation character. So, now you have a try block. So, as I said in the last class, the try block is nothing but, you are writing as such, right, you are writing as such the usual program, alright. So, then you may have, right, you may have to throw the exception. So, now you take the input C in x, alright, that means you are taking one input x and another input y, the C in dot ignore, right. So, this will ignore leftover new line character, right. So, it will ignore the leftover new line character. So, now it is prompting to enter either the arithmetic operators, right, either one of the arithmetic operators, maybe plus, minus, star or slash. So, let us have C in operation. So, operation is a character. So, it is expecting one character. So, that character should be either plus or minus or star or slash. So, now we have one variable result whose data type is double. Now, you have switch operation. So, this is a character. If the case is plus, you are doing x plus y. If the operation is minus, you have x minus y. If the operation is star, you are multiplying. But your operation is slash, you are calling the function divide x comma y, right, divide x comma y. So, what will happen? Suppose it is a divide operation x comma y and assume that y is equal to 0, right. So, let us pass x some value and y is 0, right. If it is 0, correct, if b is equal to 0, it will call this function runtime error and it will throw this particular message, right. So, try. So, when it is calling this function, you have the throw block, right. So, throw, right, the throw statement. So, it is calling this particular function runtime underscore error which is available in standard exceptions. So, division by 0 error will be thrown and let us see where it will be caught, right. So, you have a catch function here, right. So, before that you have one default, right, you have one default case. So, the default case is if the user is entering any other operator, so this will tell invalid operation because you are expecting plus, minus, star or slash, alright. So, otherwise when it is coming out it will display the result, alright. So, suppose you have x plus y, right, x minus y, let us say all are y is a non-zero, right. If y is a non-zero, so it will print, right, y is non-zero, it will print the result, correct. Otherwise, if suppose y is non-zero, right, suppose y is 0, all right. So, in that case, if b is equal to 0, it will throw this particular exception, all right, and this will be caught by the function catch, right. So, you have catch exception e, right. So, you have the object e. So, error will be printed, C error will be printed, and the object e is invoking what, this we had already seen, right. When this is invoking what, assume that my input is, let us say 10, 0 and slash, that means my x is 10, y is 0 and the case I am giving division, right, it is a division operator, right. So, this is the one, assume that I am giving the division operator, case is slash. So, this will call divide x comma y, that means I am passing x is 10 and y is 0, right, x is 10 and y is 0. So, in that case your a is 10, b is 0, a will be equal to 10 and b will be equal to 0. So, when b is equal to 0, this is throwing this exception, that means it is calling runtime error function which is available in standard exceptions, and then the message is division by 0 error, and this will be caught over here. You have the exception, right, reference object e. So, error will be printed, right, error will be printed, and this e is calling this what function, right, e is calling the what function. In fact, what which is available in exception, this we had seen already, correct. So, then you will get the output like this, error division by 0 error. So, this what function is available in standard exceptions, alright. So, in fact, one of the examples we had seen this, right, this will give you as expected error, and this is the message division by 0 error. You are passing 10 0 slash, you are getting the output like this, alright. So, suppose my input is this 10 2, right, x is 10, y is 2 and I am going for division. So, 10 by 2, right, this will be 2, right, passing 10 and 2, when you are passing 10 and 2, b is not 0. So, a by b will be performed, correct. So, 10 by 2, you have to get the answer 5. So, 5.0 will be returned, double of a by b. So, 5.0 will be returned and that will be your result here, right. So, it will go here, it will not go to the catch function. So, C out. So, since there is no catch, it will go to return 0. So, the result, so 10 by 2, 5 will be printed. So, this is what exactly happening, right. So, 10 by 2 and I am passing slash, and you can see the cursor there, right, that is a cursor. So, 10 and 2 I am giving the input, one is for x, another one is for y. So, slash is the operator. So, it is giving the output 10 by 2 is 5. So, this is one case study, right. So, another case study is exception handling in bank account management. So, one is the easier one we had seen, and in fact, we had keep on seeing this divided by 0 error. Maybe we will see if there is anything else, right. So, let us assume a simple banking system where users can perform operations like depositing the money or withdrawing the money or both, alright. So, we will introduce exceptions to handle the following error when the withdrawal amount exceeds the account balance, alright, withdrawal amount exceeds the, suppose my balance is 1000, but I want to take 1500, right, this is the one case, and depositing a negative amount, right, which is also not allowed. So, other than divide by 0, so this is an absurd case, right, in the banking system. So, when you are doing withdrawing amount exceeds the account balance or depositing a negative amount, right, so which is not allowed. So, we will see how we are going to handle with respect to error handling exception or exception handling in C++. So, now let us consider include IOStream and include standard exceptions, class bank account, right. So, here you have private member data. So, the class is bank account and you have private member data account holder and balance. Account holder is string and balance is double. So, let us have the constructor, 2 argument constructor, string name and initial balance. If initial balance less than 0, right, the negative balance, right? It is throwing, right? The throwing invalid underscore argument, right, which is the function available in standard exceptions, and this will throw this message: initial balance cannot be negative, right? So, this exception is being thrown, right? So, this exception is being thrown, and the name that you are passing, it is copied into account holder, and initial balance is copied into balance, all right. Next, let us see. So, this is the constructor. So, this is the constructor, and next one is the member function. Member function is void deposit. So, you are passing one argument amount. If amount is less than or equal to 0, right. So, you can't deposit money 0, right. It has to throw the invalid argument, correct, or the amount cannot be negative. So, I put, because minus 15 is an integer, right. I want to deposit rupees minus 15, which is absurd, alright. So, in that case it has to throw the invalid argument, that means it has to throw the exception. The exception here is deposit amount must be positive, right. So, the second one, right. Otherwise, if it is greater than 0, balance equal to balance plus amount, and the deposit is successful, right. The new balance rupees is balance that you are entering. Whatever you have deposited, the balance will be displayed, rupees, whatever be the balance. So, now another function is void withdraw, alright. Void withdraw, you have the argument amount, right. So, the parameter amount. If the amount is greater than balance, alright, that means the withdrawal amount, if it is greater than balance, then it will throw the runtime error. This is what we had seen in fact, alright. So, few examples we had seen in the last class, alright. So, throw runtime error. So, it will throw the runtime error with the message insufficient funds cannot withdraw that amount, right. Insufficient funds cannot withdraw that amount. If amount is less than or equal to 0, right, if amount is less than or equal to 0, throw invalid argument. So, withdraw. So, you are trying to withdraw, let us say less than or equal to 0. So, then it is also absurd. So, then it has to throw the exception invalid underscore argument, withdrawal amount must be positive, alright. So, here it is a runtime error and here it is a invalid argument. Otherwise, balance equal to balance minus amount. Suppose I have 2000 rupees and I am withdrawing only 1000 rupees, yeah, my remaining will be 1000. So, that you are doing in line number 39, and then you are printing what is the balance, withdrawal successful and new balance rupees is what. So, and then void display, account holder name, right, account holder, and current balance, balance, fine. So, this is how the class is being ended here. So, now go to the main program. Int main, you start with try, right. Bank account, you have an object account passing Pradeep and 1000.0, alright. You have a object account, that means it will call the constructor. So, the constructor you are passing name and initial balance, name is Pradeep and initial balance is 1000 rupees, right. So, initial balance is greater than 0. So, therefore, it comes here, account holder is now Pradeep and balance is 1000, okay. And then you are displaying account, this account object which is invoking display function, member function. So, display member function you have here. So, account holder Pradeep and the current balance rupees is 1000. So, now account is invoking deposit, 500 rupees we are depositing, right. So, if 500 rupees is being deposited, then you see what will happen, deposit, it will call deposit, 500 rupees is being deposited, right. Amount is 500 which is greater than 0. So, it will come here balance equal to balance plus amount, 1000 plus 500. So, you will have 1500. So, initially you have 1000, now it is 1500. Account holder name is Pradeep and the balance is 1500 now, right. So, now account is withdrawing 2000 rupees, account is invoking withdraw function, 2000 is being passed. So, now your balance is 1500, 2000 is, right, balance is 1500 and this is your balance, but what is the withdrawal? Withdrawal is 2000. So, you know what will happen, right. So, now it is not possible, your account is having 1500 rupees only, but you are trying to withdraw 2000 rupees. So, in that case, here you go your withdrawal, right? If the amount greater than balance, correct? Amount is 2000, balance is 1500, so runtime error. So, this will throw, right, runtime error, insufficient funds, cannot withdraw that amount, right. So, that means it is calling runtime error, throwing runtime error. That means when it is throwing, it will be caught here, right, because it is a runtime error. So, error will be printed, right, C error, error will be printed. So, initially up to balance not a problem, and then when E is invoking the inbuilt function what under standard exceptions, right. So, the following will be printed. So, STD out, name of the account is Pradeep, right. Up to here we have to anyway display, right, based on the display the amount will be displayed, right. So, because deposit successful, this will also call, right, account deposit. When you put 500, here you go deposit, yes, this will also be printed. This we discussed already, correct. Up to here will be printed, that is why you are getting in the C out statement, right. So, Pradeep, name of the account holder is Pradeep, correct, and initially when it is printing up to here, right, when the account display, it will be printing current balance is 1000. Once he deposits 500, the new balance will be rupees 1500, right. Where is the error coming? When he is trying to withdraw 2000 rupees, because the amount is 1500, you are trying to withdraw 2000. So, therefore, you will get the error, right. So, this error, and E dot what, when E is invoking what, we are getting the output like this, right. So, this is your runtime error. When it is throwing this exception, this will be caught, right, this is being thrown, right. So, this will be caught over here, error and that particular statement, insufficient funds cannot withdraw that amount. So, insufficient funds cannot withdraw the amount is being printed, right. So, you are taking care the error handling exceptions. So, now you go through both the case studies, right, both the case studies. One is divided by 0, another one, this is a very good example other than divide by 0, right. So, this is a practical example. When the banking system you are writing a code, right, when the balance or withdrawal, right, the withdrawal is greater than balance, what is happening, or somebody, I mean, simply write minus 15 as a deposit or 0 as a deposit, which is also not possible, right. So, you have handled this with the help of runtime error as well as invalid arguments, okay. I hope you understood both the case studies. So, now on this, suppose in the case of Java, right. So, type of exceptions in Java. So, there are two types of exceptions in Java, one is checked exception and another one is unchecked, right. So, whereas the error is considered as unchecked exception, right. So, checked exception, the classes that extend throwable class except the runtime exception and error. So, they are called as checked exceptions. So, for example, input output exception, SQL exceptions. So, these are all considered as checked exceptions and these are all checked at compile time, right. Checked exceptions or checked at compile time, whereas unchecked exceptions are done during the runtime, right. So, what are all the unchecked exceptions? The runtime exceptions, right. The class that extend runtime exception, we call it as unchecked exceptions. So, here you go, the arithmetic exceptions, null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception. So, these are all considered as unchecked exception, right. So, in Java you have checked exception and unchecked exception. So, the same divide by 0, alright. So, we know that when we try 50 by 0, so by default you will get an error. So, this we have seen standard exceptions in C++. In a similar way in Java, suppose if I run the code, very simple code, right. So, this is your driver class, correct, and here you have the main A equal to 50 by 0 and then you are trying to print A, right. So, by default you will get this error, correct. So, that is nothing but arithmetic exception error, correct. So, here you have the arithmetic exception because you have divide by 0, right. So, this is a scenario where arithmetic exception occurs, so runtime unchecked exceptions, correct. And in the second case you have null pointer exception, right. So, null pointer exception, you may ask the question whether there is a pointer concept in Java. Yes, this is an example. String S which is pointing to null. So, null pointer exception, string S is pointing to null, alright. And then what you are doing, you are trying to find out the length of this string, right. S is pointing to null, S is not pointing to anything, and then you are trying to print S dot length, right. So, what will happen, you will get the null pointer exception, alright, null pointer exception. So, this is a null pointer exception. So, S is equal to null, S is a string which is not pointing to anything, correct. S is a string and which is not pointing to anything, you call it as null, and then you are trying to print. The string is not pointing to anything, it is an empty string, correct. Not only empty string, S is pointing to null, null pointer, right, and then you are trying to print S dot length. So, the exception will occur, the exception is nothing but the null pointer exception. So, when you run the code in terminal, so you are getting the null pointer exception. And the third scenario is number format exception. So, this example I talked about in the last class. So, when you are converting, let us say string S is ABC, right. So, let us consider the string S is ABC, and here what you do, the object integer, right, which is in the wrapper class, which is invoking parse int of S. So, it is trying to convert the string into integer. You can convert the character into integer, but string into integer, which is not possible, right. Parse int, trying to call this function by passing the string ABC you are passing. So, what is the integer equivalent of ABC, right. So, this is not possible, and when you are trying to print this, this will throw an error, line number 5 you will get an error, right. So, it is trying ABC, the input string, and then here you see, right, the line number 5, right. So, you are getting number format exception, right. Here you are getting the error number format exception. So, the integer dot parse int, so you are having the problem over here, right. When you are trying to convert the string into integer, it is not possible, and the exception, the name of the exception is number format exception, and this is the famous one, array index out of bound exception, alright. So, Java you have to be little careful. So, here you are declaring the dynamic array of the length 5, right. Here you are declaring the dynamic array of length 5, right, and then you are trying to access 10th index, 0 is the first index, trying to access 10th index, and then you are putting a of 10 equal to 50, right. You try this in C++, this will work, alright, array of 5 elements, particularly static array you take, a of 5, dynamic array also it should work, right. Whereas, Java you have to be little careful, right, when you are trying, let us say a of 10 equal to 50, but you have declared only array of 5 elements, you have declared array of 5 elements, a of 10 is 50, correct. So, therefore, your system dot out dot println a of 10, so I can access a0, a1, a2, a3, a4, but I am trying to access a10, so therefore, I will get an error array index out of bounds exception, right. So, you can see here array index out of bound when you run the code. So, the first line is the compilation, second is you are running the code, you are getting the output array index out of bounds exception. So, you cannot access a of 5, you can access only a0, a1, a2, a3 and a4, these 5 elements, because you have declared the dynamic array of 5 elements in Java, okay, and then you are trying to access here in this particular case 10th index. So, that is not possible. So, Java very sensitive and it is giving array index out of bounds exception. So, in C++ we have seen how many keywords? Try, catch and throw, right. So, we have seen try, catch and throw. So, here additionally you have finally and throws, right. So, these are all additionally we have. So, now with the help of try and catch, right, with the help of try and catch, in fact, it will throw the arithmetic exception, correct. So, let us see how this works. It is almost like C++, right. Assume that you have a driver class called test try catch 2, right. So, test try catch 2, right, and you have, this is a test driver class, you have the main program over here, right. So, here you are trying data equal to 50 by 0, alright, when data is equal to 50 by 0, right. So, here it will throw the exception, it will throw the exception. In C++ we are using throw, right. So, here automatically it will throw the exception, and this exception will be caught over here, this exception will be caught over here, that means it will invoke the catch function, right. So, this is the arithmetic exception as the class and E is the object, right. And then what you are doing, you are trying to print E, right, you are trying to print E. What is the exception, right, what is that exception, you are trying to print that exception, alright. So, this will throw the exception, alright. So, 50 by 0 will throw the exception, and here you are printing what is that exception, first print statement, and second print statement rest of the code, right. So, that means here you have taken the flow of the code, right. Suppose you are not writing this catch statement, let us say without try catch, in fact we had seen 50 by 0, it is calling the standard Java exception, right, and then we had seen what is the output we got, it will give an exception error, alright. So, here you have carefully taken care 50 by 0, that will be throwing the exception, and the exception you are printing over here, what is the exception, and then one more system out.println statement rest of the code. So, you can see here when I run the code, compiling and run the code, so this is the exception, java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0 is the error, right, in fact exception, right. For this print statement, this is being printed java.lang.arithmetic exception, what is that, divide by 0, you are printing here, and then line number 8, rest of the code you are printing, right. So, this is how you can handle the exception in Java. So, I had used, right, the Java exceptions, I can handle this by these keywords. So, in fact, here in this case we had seen try and catch, alright. So, here we can find it is automatically throwing the exception, in this line the exception is being thrown, okay. So, in today's lecture we talked about 2 case studies in C++, and I introduced in the case of Java what are all the exceptions, and we have seen 4 different scenarios, and then we talked about this try catch, and in fact line number 4 it is throwing the exception. So, we know how try catch throw work in Java as well as in C++, okay. So, in the next class we will talk about the multiple catch, right. So, multiple catch, when the multiple catch occurs in a same program, how it goes. So, which one will be considered, right. So, that we will see in the next class. Thank you.